So today we're going to be looking at a few simple examples for conditional formatting. We're going to be using the same data that I've used in um, a few other videos that we've done. Um, just as a kind of a recap, um, the way I've used Excel for the majority of my career is to track deliverables for scheduled training or installation or data conversion and those kind of things. So I wanted to kind of continue my path on showing how to track those services type deliverables. So one of the things that I've done, and you'll notice this from previous videos if you've seen any of the other ones, I've got a set of data which basically is a list of projects or orders that we have sold certain types of training deliverables. We're tracking the quantity, price, total, the trainer name when it was delivered, its current status, and along with that, over to the right in this cream colored section, it may look a little yellow, it depends on your monitor, I guess, but I've got some formulas built in. Typically, when I work with spreadsheets, usually they have 10,000 rows, and I just created some sample data. And the formulas on the right help us make some calculations that will kind of update themselves and also are helpful if you're using any type of a pivot table, those kind of things to do reporting. Now for this example at the bottom, I've just created a small table that I'm using for a summary section, and I use the sum if statement to create formulas just to total the revenue for each one of these trainers, depending on if it was, what we paid the trainer or are scheduled to pay the trainer, what their expenses were, and then how much profit the company actually made um, for each trainer that we had in the system up to that point. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you a couple of different conditional formatting pieces that I like to use. These are really simple. Obviously, they probably don't encompass the entire conditional formatting, but they're neat, quick, easy things that you can do to your sheet that can give you visual indicators of something that you may or may not need to look at. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to work with the profit revenue. And for this example, we're going to look for, okay, I made a mistake. So we're going to cut that out and we're going to start here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at the profit percentage column. And what we want to do, we want some kind of an indicator that says, hey, my company tells me that when I schedule a training, I need to consider the cost of what we're paying the trainer, uh, their actual or up until their estimated expenses, and then our profit. And they need me to ensure that any event or project that we deliver has at least a 40% profit margin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my entire range where my profit percentage is, and we're going to use conditional formatting to show us some visual indicators when we fall below 40%. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've already highlighted the data that we're gonna put the formatting rules on. I'm going to click on conditional formatting, and I'm going to choose to highlight sales rule section, and we want to choose less than. Now you'll see there's a lot of other different mathematical rules that you can choose from: greater than, less than, between, equal to, text that contains, and even more if you click more rules. But for this example, we're going to use less than. And what do I want to see? I want to see anything in this column. I want it to highlight anything that is less than 40%. So now, once we've set that up, it's going to continuously monitor this column and any um, row or project or event that falls below a 40% margin, it's going to give us a highlighted indicator. Now, if if something hasn't been scheduled yet, excuse me, if something hasn't been delivered yet, and I see that I'm below margin, then maybe I can go back and look at my data and I can say, okay, Jane Doe's doing this and she's doing 2 days of analytics training. What can I do to maybe bump down the expenses? Or do I have a trainer that's qualified that has a lower pay rate? Maybe they make less money, so it doesn't cost us as much. Or maybe I have a trainer that lives closer to the client and we don't have to fly someone across the country, or maybe it's even in their region, or maybe even in their hometown. So that's one way we can do that. Now, the other thing is maybe I want to apply a second rule. So I've got the ones that are going to pop up that say, hey, these are the ones that are below margin. But since some of these expenses may be estimated, I may want to show a different color indicator that shows me, hey, these are between 40 and 45%. And if something goes wrong, or maybe there was weather that canceled your flight, or maybe something happened that it's going to increase it, at least they'll be on your radar, so that you'll know, hey, I need to kind of take a look at this from time to time to make sure nothing's going wrong up to the point when you actually deliver the training. So to do that, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to highlight the column of data I want to monitor. I'm going to click conditional formatting, excuse me, and under the highlight rules section this time, we're going to choose between. And I'm going to choose 40%. And I'm going to choose 45%. Now, we don't want them to show up the same color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this drop down, and this is going to allow us to format the colors that are going to show. Now, for this example, they give you some presets that they've already done for you, but I want to do a custom format. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the fill. And for this example, I'm just going to make it yellow, because to me, if you think of a stoplight, a traffic light, yellow is, hey, you need to take a look at this. It's about to turn red. You can also go back to the font if you wanted to make it bold, if you wanted to make it a different color for the text, you can do that also. But for this example, I'm just going to leave it at yellow, and I'm going to click OK. So now, if I click OK here, you're going to notice that I have two events that are below 40%, which is a problem, but I've got another that's 43% that could be a problem if our estimated expenses don't work out the way that we've estimated them. For example, I could come over here. Maybe their expenses went up by $100. Maybe they had to stay an extra day because there was weather or something. I don't know. So let's make it 750, and you'll see that it dropped to 38%. And then the second rule that we had set up picked up and changed the color to red, because now we're going to be over budget. Now, the next thing I wanted to do, um, which is pretty simple, and I don't really know that there's enough data or enough revenue for this to make, a big difference. But there's some other things in conditional formatting that are called data bars. This is a very good indicator, visual indicator, for you to see um, large amounts of money without having to, or which amount or which cell contains the most amount of money without actually having to read the numbers in all the cells. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here to our summary, and this doesn't really work well in large amounts of data. For me, in my experience, it works great for or works better for summary level information. But what we're going to do is we're going to do this one column at a time, and we're going to highlight all the revenue for the training money. This is what we pay the trainer. So, or what we anticipate paying the trainer. It's kind of a combination in this example, but um, we're going to go back to conditional formatting. We're going to click on data bars, and I want to choose the blue one. You notice one's blue, one's green, one's red. We're going to choose the blue for this example. And now you can see that the higher the number, the longer the color goes across the cell from left to right. So I can quickly see just by looking at those bars, without even reading the numbers, that we've paid or have scheduled to pay Ralph Stone the least amount of money. So now let's go over to expenses. Let's highlight that data. Let's go back to data bars, and for expenses, that's going to be outgoing money, so we're going to make it red. And then we're going to do the same thing for profit. And since profit is good money, we're going to choose green. So now, if you go back and look at this, you can kind of do a little bit of analysis. I mean, obviously you can do it just by looking at the numbers, but one key thing that jumped out at me is that Janet Jones has made us the most amount of money, and we've paid her a very small amount of expenses for the training that she does. So, that could mean a lot of things. It could mean that if she's made us $6,000, we paid her $2,000. She's had several events. She's had more events than a lot of the other people on the list. But the thing that jumps out to me is that she's made us this much money and we've only paid out $310 in expenses. Why is that? We need to go dig into that. Is it because all her training have been very close to where that trainer lives? Um, Probably, but you may want to take a look at that and some of the things that you can do. I could come back over here and I could sort by profit, which is column D, which is actually the way it's already. Nope, there it goes. It wasn't sorted. Or I could do that again, and let's do largest to smallest. So now you can very quickly see that that's the order this is in because it's going from highest to lowest. You can look at the bars. Um, so she's made us the most money. She's got a tiny amount of expenses, and we've paid her about $2,000. And you can kind of follow that pattern, but you can kind of pick and choose what's important to you. Um, this is a very small table for the summary, but if you had 10 or 15 people in there, these are really good visual indicators for you to use in your analytics, trying to figure out, am I over budget? Am I under budget? Am I paying this trainer too much? I've got this trainer down here, Ralph, who's only done uh, $750 worth of work. Why is that? Is he, does he only train certain products? Does he train fewer products than other trainers? Have you gotten complaints on him? What's going on? So again, these are very, very high level tools. Um, I don't know that I would solely depend on this to run my business, but it's just very quick visual indicators that may help you just spot some things that, just to kind of make them pop out. Again, um, the formulas that I used to pull out these numbers out of this data was the sum if. I do have another video out there and it'll show you exactly how to do that if you're not familiar with it. But I think that's all we're going to cover today. We'll probably be pulling some other ones in uh, to give you a few extra tips and tools for conditional formatting a little later.